Do you know, sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes, you kind of look at what you've done and think, what the fuck am I doing? But then at other times you go, no, this is awesome, fuck it. For those of you that don't know, you can get a week's free Omega within the NES store in EVE Online at the moment. Definitely worth a look, because you can bring all your alphas online. I'm missing one here, but there was a problem with it. But if you go into the NES store, if your account is in Omega, you'll be able to add 7 days to your Omega. If your account is in Alpha, you should be able to add a couple of days to that as well. Well, hello, I'm alone in Finland, and at the moment I'm actually just transversing a little bit of null space, and I thought it might be an idea to talk about null, because I know that a lot of the people that watches are sort of new into the game, or are sort of more high-sec orientated. And I just got a comment a little while ago about somebody sort of tripping into low-sec for a little bit of mining and things like this, and this sort of conversation was around the danger. Now, null is an interesting place, and I pop out there all the time. Now, I'm not an expert on it by any means. I did used to live out here for a long time, but the difference is that for the last decade I haven't been here, and the mechanics around about null have changed significantly. For instance, as you can see here, we've got all the sky hooks, the sovereignty hub, a whole load of things that have sort of changed the way the game works. But it is still possible to come out here, and in some ways it's actually a little bit easier because you don't have to pass through the gate camps, and this is where the sort of filaments come in. So as you can see here, I've got the noise and the needle jack filaments. The noise takes you out to sort of lower population areas. The needle jack, the signal, takes you out to more high population areas, and then down below we have the cladistic or glorification filaments that will take you into into Pochven, so you can jump back to Pochven instead of jumping to high sec. And then you have filaments that will bring you from Pochven out. I think actually the glorification is one of the exit filaments, as well as the proximity. So there are ways to sort of hop in and hop out. The problem is it is random, so you can't quite predict where you're going. And this has been a little bit of what I've been doing today, is trying to get I'm actually heading out to the outer ring. I'm heading out to buy some blueprints, and I thought I'd do it using the actual filaments to see if I could get close. And this was sort of the closest that I got out of any. We've got a little friend next to us. So there. Oh shit. So as you can see here, we've run across a whole load of things. They are not close. There are a couple, 2 of them that are close, but the rest of them are a little bit further away, hanging on a station. I have just gone into a really populated area, 451, on my way through. That's quite interesting. However, I don't think, well, there was a lot in space just there, but I don't think too many of them are in space at the moment. Let's just have a look at the map. We are working off of the new map, it's just come out today. 42 pilots in system is what it said, and as you can see, it's closer to 430. But this is how many people were active in the system. So these pilots might have been on the gate or doing something else. As you can tell, I'm in a low key, and I do have it rigged with the introduction nullifier. However, that does not stop it getting popped if I warp too close to somebody that's using a smart bomb or something like that on a gate. So I have to be careful with this as I'm moving through. But in general, providing you stay away from any systems that you sort of see with the higher population numbers, then you should be okay to transit. As you can see, I've got a route that's actually going through 2 very high population centres, and it might actually be better, might behoove me to go back the way and actually work my way around here, so that I end up back where I want to be. But as you can see, it adds on over 10 jumps. So it's a question of necessity and insanity, and I'm fairly insane, so I'm going to give this a shot and see how it runs. And shock horror, there was actually nobody on gate. That doesn't mean for the next few systems there won't be anybody or any bubbles, but I would be less expectant of bubbles. Who's that 12 away? That's Nishtar. I should be able to get away from him. Oh, he's gone anyways. We've got a couple of people sat 1,000 kilometres off on a station. But in general, I wouldn't expect bubbles in the next couple of systems because of the simple fact that I'm jumping through two high populated systems. So I wouldn't expect them here. I would expect them on the outskirts, or possibly up to the outskirts of the region, depending on who owns this entire area. At the moment, we've got the initiative as the main controller around about here. So it sort of depends on that. And I sort of stay out of all of the politics and stuff like that. I've got enough time with the problems in the world, not more problems than Eve. So I'm just sort of just passing through and hoping that I survive. Now, the reason that I'm sort of showing this is because when it comes to some of the new ships that have come out, the mining ships and the exploration ships, this might be a good way for you to actually get out there. Jump into null-sec, get a little bit of taste for it, and especially with the cheaper destroyers, as well as you can do this in ventures or other things. You can pop out here, have a look, and if you lose a ship, providing you don't have any implants in that are of high value, it's not much to get sort of podded back to high sec. You might lose a bit of time and a bit of resources, but it's a good experiment for it. It's a good way to get a feel for the area. And when it comes to some of the rats and things out here, if you're coming out with a ship that's a little bit more fitted to it, then you might be able to turn a little bit of money, do a bit of mining, or going after some of the entities and make a little bit of coin that way and have a different experience. What I will say, which is something that caught me out earlier on, is you have to remember about the new storms. There is the, what do they call them, Medmanimil storms? I can never pronounce it correctly. But these are the storms that can spawn in certain systems. They'll have a core system, and then it'll be a few jumps out will also be sort of affected by this. And the absolute bastard of them all is the electric storm, because it has a penalty to cloaking. So sneaky people are far less sneaky when you're out here, which can cause you a little bit of a problem. Because I did my filament jump for the first time in months and landed in this storm and actually didn't know anything about it. Now, if you do want to have a look at those things, evescoutrescue.com has a storm tracker on it. So these are guys that will help you in wormhole space and stuff like this, but they are also tracking the storms now, which is a fantastic thing from the community. So it gives you a little bit of help that way. Now, it's not foolproof because a new storm might happen and might need to be reported, but in general there's a lot of stuff going on that they keep an eye on, so it's something to avoid them. Also, if you are sort of ratting out here, remember that we do have this, the main bank now, and the reserve bank, so a little bit of your bounty will go into the main bank, and you'll get it after, I think it's after a 20-minute or half-hour period. Maybe it's a couple of hours, I can't remember. I think it's a couple of hours looking at this. So it sort of stacks up a little bit of your stuff, and if nobody raids it, then you'll get it paid out. And a little bit goes into the reserve bank as well, so you don't get the full bounty value while you're out here. But the bounties are high enough that it's not bad at all if you're out here dealing with this stuff. And as you can see here, I've just passed through a really high populated area and it's just been absolutely nothing. So that's always nice. But you'll see an awful lot of comments from people that talk about null-sec being safer than high-sec, and in some ways it is, in some ways it isn't. First off is that everybody knows it's dangerous, so they take appropriate precautions, whereas with high-sec some people just assume that it's safe and then ganks come for you. Part of the other reason around about it is when somebody's ganking in high-sec, it's usually multiple people or multiple accounts that are running at the same time, so you're never facing one person, especially if they are breaking the sort of Concord rules. It will be multiples and you will be in trouble. Oh, that was an interesting interference. But yeah, null-sec is quite good. It has a lot of advantages, and if you are out in places, there's also a little bit of sort of chance for more solo PvP if you're that type, especially hunting down the guys that are running the missions or the anomalies. It can be a good laugh if you come out here with a little bit of a cloaky and you decide to go hunting some of them and tracking them down. There are definitely a fair few people that suffer the consequences of that on a weekly basis, so something to have an eye on. Now, a couple of the other things that I wanted to mention as we're going through here. One of the first things is the fact that there are a fairly shocking amount of people that are botting. Not botting, sorry, people that are multiboxing. You can see them in the names as you go through. You'll see 20 people. I just saw Taylor Swift, which was hysterical. About 7 or 8 accounts that were roughly named the exact same. You could do them for minors or if you're running sites with alts and stuff like this. But that's also something to bear in mind if you're tripping out here. It means that the player count isn't as high as you would expect, and also if you're somebody that's coming back into the game, it could make for an easier target or things like this, because with multiple accounts you are splitting attention. So picking off a minor might be a little bit easier, or going after, say for instance, I have just noticed a couple of Chinese corps that are out here that are sort of tens of accounts per person, or named the same at the very least. Maybe you've got multiple sort of 20 or so accounts that are split across the same person. So it might be an idea for the people that have left EVE, that are sort of looking at it these days with all the changes and are kind of interested. It might be the time for you guys to come back into it, especially if you are a group that used to play together and have not been active in a long time. The South especially is full of a lot of these organisations. I see them almost every time I come out here, where you have an awful lot of people that are multi-boxing, whether that is minors or otherwise. So if you were to take that route, it could be something that a group of people could sort of pull together and do something as a little bit of a challenge. For a second, I'm going to take a little break while I'm doing this, which is something that's easy enough to do because of no requirements on the cloak and nobody in the system. I'm going to take a little break and have a little scan about, because I'm now in ore space and I want to see where the closest station is. So I am heading to pretty much the original place. The station finder is a pretty useful tool, but I want to get out here, have a look at some of the blueprints for the smaller stuff and snag myself a couple. Because it should be interesting going forward. I'm not in it for making materials or stuff like this. However, when I do buy a blueprint, I usually buy 2 of them at minimum, research one and then sell it in contracts just to cover the cost of the first one. It is a way of making passive income, and you do see a lot of people talking about it as passive income, but in my opinion far more people are talking about it than actually doing it. It sort of has been swamped quite a bit. Maybe you find the niche and you find the right blueprints for it, but a lot of people are doing this, and a lot of people have been doing this for a while, so sometimes it's just not worth it. So if you are doing this where you're coming out to get blueprints for various different things, for instance coming out here to the outer ring, you can get the retrievers, any of the mining barges, the venture, and obviously now the base new destroyer. You should be able to get that, take it back, and then use it for kicking out something a little bit extra. Particularly good if you're somebody that's running missions and you actually do harvest some of the dropped stuff. When you recycle that, you can make a couple extra ships and you get a little bit of increase in value as you're selling something. So fairly useful, especially with the smaller stuff. People would be surprised at how much money you can make off of the Tech 1 components, because a lot of people and a lot of newer players and alpha players do use them an awful lot. So definitely worth a look. And as you can see here, I have actually now come, let me just have a check. I actually started down here in Delve. So you're probably looking at about 20 jumps or so. Whatever the line was, it was 1.5 when I decided, because originally when I came out here, I went into Tribute, then I tried it again, went into Venial, then I went into, it was either Branch or Delve, and I've forgotten. And by that point I was like, sod it, I'll just go there. which will reset my timer for jumping back. So it's hit or miss, as with any of the gambling mechanics. Anything to do with the good old-fashioned RNGs. Now it's going to get a little bit interesting because we are jumping into one of the more populated places. Let's just have a spy on the map. And, well, it's saying 20 pilots in... Oh, 2 pilots in space here. 2 pilots in space there, so it shouldn't be too bad. But we shall see. There we go, 15 pilots. Nobody on the gate, that's nice. But the next problem is getting into the actual system. I thought I had bookmarks in the system. It must be one of the other outer ring things that I've got. A dreamer-ish. Nothing shiny. Oh, and he's right outside where I want to be. That's problematic.
Docking permission requested. Docking request accepted.
So, Elsie Brindle. Let's just keep an idea. There was 2 of them named roughly the same. Making my point about multiple accounts. But let's do a little bit of buying and then travel back. Right, so I've just got on my stuff. I've got 3 of the Pioneer blueprints, and I've just gone and noticed the one that was outside. All I've done is set their standing to minus to see how many we're actually kicking here. We've got 3 of them, the 2 Elsies and the Moosechee. So I'm going to give it a shot for undock. I shouldn't be able to be popped too badly because I've got a couple of shield extenders on this. So we shall undock and see what's going on. And then, if I can get away, it shouldn't be a big issue.
Warp drive active.
They are just AFKing outside of the station. Well, that's always interesting. Each to their own. Now, where am I going? I'm at MN5. So I've worked a little bit off, and all I'm going to do is just shift over to a different planet. Come in at 100. Oh, I'm seeing the flash ups from the new mining overview. I've noticed a hell of a lot of people complaining on the forums and on comments and Reddit and stuff like that about the fact that they had like custom colours and things like that, and they have all been wiped by the update. Which goes back to what I've said about try not to fuck with people's stuff. But yeah, feel bad for those. Unfortunately, I still sort of use the standard ones. Oh, that is not a good place to be. Let's jump over to here. So we've got a minute set up. Oh, half a minute set up, sorry. Keep scanning. And then this will take us into Triglavian space, where I'll have to wait for 15 minutes before I can jump out to safe space. And depending on where I land, I might have some other loot to bring out with me, so we'll have a look there. And we are out of here. Cloaking up straight away. Remember, local doesn't show you anything of truth in Pochven. So if you see nothing, it could have 1,000 people, it could have nobody. So it's always good. And whenever I cloak, I always start to move in a random direction. If we have a look here, I believe Pochven shows a little different on the new map. Yep, there we go. It's actually showing this. On the real one, it overlaps with a few other things. They've done this for sort of clarity. But for instance, you can see... Oh, it's not showing my bookmarks, but I do have a few bookmarks out in Pochven space. Oh, and I've been out here a little while back. So I'm just going to wait out the 15-minute timer here, and then, oops, cancel. I'll wait out the 15-minute timer here and then head back to known space. And then from there, I'll drop off to somewhere where I can research these blueprints. So while I'm sat here, I've just been having a look at some of the stuff for the new ships. So this is the Pioneer, which is the mining destroyer. It should, once the price settles, because at the moment it's phenomenal, but once the price settles, it should run in around about 5.5 million, 6 million. Looking at some of the actual materials costs. So a nice sort of simple step up from the Venture. If we have a look in the attributes, we've got sort of decent shield. You can put a K shield on it. You've got 40 meters squared drone bay, and then 20 megabit for drones, so you can kick out 4 small drones. You've got mining hold capacity of 8,000, which is quite nice, and you've got some good bonuses to the mining yield in general, so you should fill that fairly fast. Then on top of that, you do have sort of a decent warp speed, and in general it looks like a fairly decent little ship that you should be able to use for a lot of things. Not much in the way of anything special about it, but that's what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be a nice simple mining ship, and I think in general this sort of fits the niche quite nicely. Small cargo hold, 250 M3, which I think is in line with most of the destroyers, so nice and simple. If we have a look in the variations tab, the consortium issue basically gives us a little bit of a bonus when it comes to the gas cloud scuba and your shield booster. Also some visual differences. By the way, the guys at CCP that are doing the visuals, fantastic. I love these new ships. Everything is sort of a win for me. I think they look really nice. In general, the specs are just nice and simple, and also a little salvage and bonus thing, so something that you might see around an awful lot of the mining, a lot of the missioning sites as well, which is quite interesting. And then if we actually look at the attributes for this, we are running much the same when it comes to the mining hold capacity. It's 2000 M3 higher, same cargo capacity, same drone bandwidth, but the drone capacity is higher, so you can essentially have 4 sets of small drones or 2 sets of large drones, going at 4% for the small and 2% for the large. And then you'll also have, on top of that, is it a little bit better defences? Let me just have a spy at that. It looks to be a little bit tankier on the shield, but the same resistances, so not too bad in general. Then the last one that comes up is the Tech 2, the Outrider. So this thing is, well, definitely looking a little bit more beastie, and again, it's sort of like a mini Scorpion, but again, lovely visuals, absolutely fantastic. When it comes to the shield capacity, it's got a lower capacity again, but it does seem to have, am I right in saying that it does have some higher resists? Let me just check, I don't want to get that wrong. Nope, it's got the same resist. Oh, that's absolutely fine. So we do have the same sort of resists there. We do have slightly higher, so it can fit 5 light drones. It's got 100 M3 drone capacity, which is nice to see. Then we have 20,000 M3 mining hold and a slightly larger cargo hold, up 50 meters from the previous version, which again is very nice to see. And then on top of that, with our shield capacity, it's roughly the same, so it's more mining ability, not really more tanking ability. But this is definitely something that I think a lot of people will want to get into. It's a good stepping stone between barges and the Venture, but on top of that, has a Tech 2 miner, especially as a ninja miner. This one has some serious go. And then on top of that, you've got the jump field generator, which will be able to sort of bounce you a little bit, and the smaller mining things. increase the mining yield, drone hit points, all of that jazz, and then some bonuses for tractor beam range and stuff like this. So has a lot of sort of good uses. I think these will fit quite nicely into a lot of niches, especially for newer players, which would be, I think that's a good thing in general. Some nice shiny stuff for them. And I've actually cleared my timer, so let us get back to high space. What am I going for? I think I'll take a proximity. I've not used one of these before, I don't think. Can't activate it because I'm cloaked. There we go. Oh, and I'm still moving. Let's get back to it. And away we go. Now, where am I? I am back in high sec. That's nice. While I was actually out in null-sec, I was sort of ratting enough that I picked up some more stuff to be able to grab a new BP because I had minimal money as I was going out there. So,
Warp drive active.
At the moment, I might actually take the third one that I had no plan for, research it up here, and then use it to produce some stuff sort of next to Jita, or close to Jita. Might be an idea. But yeah, so that was a little day trip. That was me returning from filamenting it out, and something nice and easy. It has taken us a little bit of time because you do have that timer. In the first couple of timers I was just ratting in between. Not in the first timer because there was a lot of people in system. I didn't film that, but I just sort of set up two safe points and then just started jumping between them to make sure that nobody tracked us down. I did actually see combat scan probes come out, so I was just sort of moving constantly, warping to different celestials, setting up waypoints on the way. If you don't know how to set up a safe spot, then as you're warping, just hit add location, and wherever you hit it is where it will save. So if I'm sat here, it will sort of jump it halfway between the stars or whatever, and then you can move between different celestials and then even move between safe spaces. Once you've set up a couple, if people are actively scanning you, it's good to vary the distance that you are moving into them, just in case, because they might scan down one a little bit quicker than you expect, and then if you happen to jump back to that one from a different direction at a different range, then it gives you a little bit more of a chance. So with all that being said, that's this video. Just wanted to talk about that because it's not something I often show. Because a lot of my time down in null is boring, and that was quite boring as well because I was going to a specific place, so I was constantly jumping at the end of the timer, and it was just a little bit of ratting and stuff like that. So I thought I'd show that. Maybe it gets a few people out to null, especially if you're in cheaper ships. It's well worth it if you want to go out, and prepare to lose the ship you're doing. This is probably a good idea for EVE in general, but prepare to lose the ship you're in. So take something cheap, minimal, have a look at what you can do, and then if you arrive back in your high sec station in a pod, not a bad thing. A little bit of experience is worth a little bit of ISK, and then when it's a venture or something like that, it really is a little bit of ISK, so definitely worth it. Watch out for bubbles. If you don't know bubble mechanics, have a look at it before you head out there, and definitely have a look at the stuff for the metamineral storms. Again, evescoutrescue.com has a storm tracker, which is good for sort of knowing if you're heading out that way, or perhaps if you're moving through null-sec and you're planning the journey there. But aside from all that, thanks for talking. Down in the doobly-doo, as usual, there is the little bonus for Marquee Dragon. If you are looking at plexing your account or putting Omega in or any of that jazz, especially if you're in Europe because of the translation of euros to dollars, you can get a discount by using code alone in Finland or by using the link down in the doobly-doo, and you can also get that sort of extra discount if you're not paying in dollars as your primary currency. For instance, those of you in the US, then you'll get an extra discount on top of that because of the exchange rates at the moment. For some weird reason, there is a quite severe difference in the exchange rate. And remember that right now, as I am talking, what is the date today? We're on the 18th of November, so if you're watching that within a week or so, possibly of the 18th of November, there are some sales on in the new Eden store. So if you were to, for instance, buy some of the Plex and then come into the store, you can use the Plex after getting a discount for it with my code, which is always nice. You can also Plex your account at cheaper rates through the new Eden store because of the discounts that they've got going on there. Don't know how long that's going to last. You might want to check the stuff. There is also 7 days Omega for 10 Plex within the new Eden store. So if you are an alpha account, you'll be able to put it into Omega for the next week or so. And have a look at what you get at the Omega, or train some skills and stuff like that. A little bit of bonus training time and things like that. So with all that being said, thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time. Bye!